Okay, so we're going to do a little 101 on sawing today. What we need for this is a saw frame and saw blades, our piece of silver that we're going to, or metal that we're going to be cutting shape from, and a bench pin. So the bench pins are usually timber, and you use them to support your work whilst you are doing your sawing. So the most important thing with sawing is that you don't hold on to the frame too tight, the saw frame. You don't want any tension in your wrist, in your hand, or even in your elbow. You want to be nice and relaxed, and essentially you're just guiding the blade through the material. So your hand is literally just the guide, and the teeth of the blade are doing all the work. So the teeth on the saw blade are threaded so that they point out and down. So the cutting action happens as you drag the blade down through the material. Notice I said as you drag the blade, so the blade does all the work. So you're not putting your shoulder or your back or your elbow into it. You're simply the guide that's directing the movement of the blade through the material. So if you have your frame and bench pin set up, and you haven't done this before, just go ahead and practice cutting into the wood. It's just to relax you and ease you up so that you're not nervous about breaking the blade. Now, breaking the blade is something that everyone's nervous of, and it's going to happen, and it's fine. And usually when you break a blade, you'll probably break 3 or 4 in a row. It's just one of those things. But the main reasons why you might break a blade are you're holding too tight and pushing too hard and putting too much pressure on the blade, because the blade's actually quite fine. So that just indicates back off, relax, take it easy. Make sure you're breathing, that you're nice and calm. And sawing is actually quite a meditative thing once you've got your roll on. So definitely it's something to not have any pressure around, but just be at ease with and just find the rhythm. So you're just literally dragging the blade through the material, nice and relaxed. I mean, I'm only holding this like this. I don't even have a full grip on it at the moment. So that's the first thing. The other reason you might break a blade is if you start changing direction and you stop sawing up and down because you're focused on changing direction. So you need to remember to always be moving the saw blade up and down through the material whenever you are changing direction. If you decide to turn a corner and you've stopped doing this, you will snap the blade, because the resistance of the material will literally just break the blade in half. So always when you're sawing, keep sawing until you're finished. Okay? So they're the 2 main things I wanted to tell you about. I'm going to bring you a bit closer now so that you can really see what's happening here. Okay, so here we are. So this is my bench pin, and I've got my sheet of silver, and you can see there's some marks there that I'm going to cut around. So this is the shape that I want, the inside bit for an earring, and then this is all the excess material out here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to position the blade to enter at this point just to the outside of that line, and then I'm going to be cutting along that line and then coming around the corner and coming up and around. So a lot of people, when they're first starting out, they're very nervous about how to actually start on the silver, and their hand might be jumping around a bit. They don't quite have a steady hand yet because they're not as practiced. A really good tip here is to, again, come back to your bench pin, use your bench pin, cut into it a little bit until there's actually timber on both sides of the blade, holding the blade in place, and then bring your metal up to the point where you want to start cutting. Cut into the metal whilst you're still in the timber until you're nicely engaged, and then just gently bring it out, and then bring your whole piece to the V slot in the center of your bench pin. And then at this point, what you want to do is have one finger to either side of the blade on the outside. Never cut with your hands like this in front of the movement of the blade, because you can actually cut yourself, and it is actually quite painful, trust me. So fingers on either side, you're pressing firmly down, and then you are just going to use long strokes, so using the whole length of the blade. Every now and then you might just blow some of that silver dust away so you can see your scribe line. The blade itself, you can lean it slightly forward, so it's not exactly perpendicular, it's a little bit forward, but not too far forward. So this is kind of an ideal angle, I find. Check in, make sure that the wrist that's holding the saw frame is nice and relaxed. And then you're just doing your sawing, and you'll notice that I'm starting to move the metal. Okay, so I'm moving the metal, and I'm just continuing that sawing movement. I'm going to keep going until I get to the end of my little teardrop. And then once I've got to the end of the teardrop, I'm going to come around the corner very gently, and then come down the other side. Until I've cut out my shape. So there we go. There's my nice little shape that's going to get turned into some sort of lovely earring. There's a second one there for me to cut out. One of the other things I was going to mention is sometimes it's easier to cut to a point and then reverse out and then come in from the other side rather than turn a sharp corner. So I might actually demonstrate that with this second piece. So again, we're going to come in from the top, finger on either side of the blade. This one's quite close to the end, so have to be a bit tenacious there, and because I'm at the end, I've got to have to come back in. So I'm coming back in now, and I'm going to just follow that curved line all the way to the point. But this time, instead of trying to go around that corner, I'm going to just reverse out. So if you need to remove your blade from the metal, just reverse saw your way back out, and then I'm going to come in from this side. And I'm going to saw all the way down until I meet that point where I've sawn before. So remembering to keep the blade moving. I'm almost there. Okay, now I've got to that point. And there's my second piece. So I now have two little pieces that are going to become earrings. There you have it, a little bit of sewing.